of our world's downfall. We lost everything, our homes, our jobs, our families, even our freedom. The noob are a powerful alien force believed to come from another galaxy, possessing technology far more advanced than ours. Their reason for invading our world was simple: the three powerful crystals found on our planet. At first, our leaders attempted peaceful negotiations with their ambassadors. But we didn't take long to realize that these beings never intended to cooperate. They were never worthy of being entrusted with the crystals. After rejecting their demands, the noob immediately launched a full-scale assault to seize the crystals. The war happened fast. Too fast. And we were defeated just as quickly. It looks like another invader has arrived right after we finally defeated the G-noob. From what we've heard from both the noobs and these new intruders, they call themselves guests. Judging from what little we know, it seems the noobs and the guests once fought on the same side. This was completely unexpected, and worse, these guests appear to have technology just as powerful, terrifying, and advanced as the noobs. This is bad. Really bad. Since the guests share similarities with the dummies, it's possible we might already have a guest spy within our own bases. The Alaska base is already falling to the guests. We haven't received any communication from them at all, and that base held one of the crystals they're desperately searching for. God. Even after the Scale and Block tribes came to help, nothing is improved. Everything is getting worse. I just hope our new Titan dummy project is completed before the guests find us first.
Hey, General Credos. How have you been? It's me, Fearon, lead scientist of the Guest faction. You seem to be having quite a problem with this dummy war of yours, huh? Ah, don't worry. I've got something that should work perfectly on those foolish dummies. You remember the incident where my guest soldiers raided the dummy base in Alaska, right? Ah, yeah. Those weaklings never stood a chance. We broke through their traps and pushed straight into the inner base. And it looks like we found a certain type of crystal in there. The substance inside that crystal can manipulate living bodies, so I decided to test it with an old project of mine, the control device. And unbelievably, it worked. The device can completely control the person wearing it, and they will obey anyone holding the control transmitter. Tell me, General Credos, are you thinking what I'm thinking? If we can separate Titan Block and Titan Scale from each other, and take control of their elder brother, the Titan Scale dummy, wouldn't that be perfect?
Hello. My name is Fina, a dummy scientist working under the Russian Research Division. This tape contains the results of our studies on the three major crystal types discovered across the world. They are hypnotized crystal, cloner crystal, and D-dimension crystal. Let's start with the hypnotized crystal. These crystals are mostly found in Alaska, the northern parts of Canada, and Greenland. When the extracted substance is inhaled, it causes dizziness and completely shuts down the subject's motor control. However, the body will still move, but in an unstable, twisted manner, almost like someone who has lost their sanity. After about 5 minutes, the dizziness fades, and the subject returns to normal. This substance only affects dummy species: dummy, scale dummy, and block dummy. It's extremely dangerous if it falls into the hands of the noobs or the guests. Next is the cloner crystal, mainly found across Europe, especially near Germany. This one is safe to touch. Its particles bond extremely well with somatic cells, allowing us to rapidly clone dummy soldiers. So far, we haven't found any major side effects in the clones. And yes, the cloner crystal works on every species, including noobs and guests. Unfortunately, most of Europe has already been taken over by the noobs. But still, having more clones doesn't always mean victory, right? Now for the last one, the D-dimension crystal. This is by far the most dangerous of the three. We've found deposits in Russia, parts of Europe, and even in Brazil. Contact with this crystal greatly boosts physical strength and increases body size. But at the cost of losing self-control, the user becomes extremely aggressive and unstable. If exposed for too long, the crystal begins consuming the host's body, causing intense pain. Even so, the substance is incredibly valuable for military technology. In fact, it's one of the key materials used in creating our new Titan dummy model. Its effects are strongest on regular dummies and weakest on scale dummies. If we had more advanced technology, this crystal could become even more useful, far beyond what we can do now. The good news is that the noobs and guests have discovered very few D-dimension crystals so far. They still don't know where most of them are located. This might be our only advantage in this war. Alright, that should be everything for this tape. I really hope someone ends up listening to this.
Greetings, my name is Reyna, Colonel General Dummy, in charge of diplomatic resources and area defense planning. We have received reports from several bases about guest spies who have managed to infiltrate the bases because they closely resemble dummies, making them difficult to detect and screen. Furthermore, when guest spies are caught, they often themselves rather than be captured, resulting in numerous I recommend making the screening of people entering the base more rigorous and developing a device to detect their ethnicity. Next is a report on faction Dravenix from the planet Veltraxis. We encountered this faction when our soldiers found a tablet-like device that had been left open, containing information about their planet. So we connected that device to a large transmitter that we had secretly built and used it to locate that planet until we found it. They look very similar to the dummy faction, but the difference is that their skin is red. They possess highly advanced technology, which I believe can easily defeat the noob faction. We sent a message to the Dravonics, and it looks like they responded as well. This allowed us to exchange scientific information. However, what was concerning was that they reported that the noob faction, which had taken over our world, had also invaded their planet. They call this war the Noob Battalion, and say that the noob faction is much more dangerous than they had thought, which surprises me because, according to the base defense reports, the noobs are not capable of fighting us very well, and the technology of the noob faction when they invaded our world was no more dangerous than the technology of the Dravonix people. However, it made me immediately change my mind based on the video footage they sent us, which showed noob combat aircraft we had never seen before. There were also a large number of noob soldiers, and their gear was truly highly advanced. This might be because the noob soldiers looked weak on Earth, because their true forces were invading Veltraxis. So we sent them various strategies for fighting the noobs, explaining their weaknesses as much as we could help. We also asked why the noobs were invading their planet, and whether their planet also had crystals. But they didn't know the reason for the noob invasion, and their planet did have crystals, but they weren't that good. There must be other reasons as well that we're not yet sure of. Something like that. However, over the past period, we received almost no response from Veltraxis until November 2nd, 2025, when we received another message from Veltraxis, which was a pending message. Veltraxis and the people of Dravenix cannot protect against the evil threat of the noobs, and if you are seeing this message, we Dravenix have all perished. And the message concluded by saying that all the noob forces we had encountered were on their way to your planet, Earth. And after another day, there were reports of attacks from multiple bases, and reports from our Titans that in Berlin, Germany, a giant mothership-class spacecraft has appeared, along with General Noob and numerous combat aircraft. Therefore, I would like to warn you to try to upgrade your bases as well. And even if you can still defend against the enemies, they will continue to grow stronger, and you must never let the day come when the enemies are stronger than your bases. I hope everyone's safety.
Back in 1990, one of them was a massive meteorite, approximately 20 meters in diameter, which crashed into the Quebec region of Canada and created a colossal crater. However, upon investigating every meteorite crash site, not a single injury was found. It was considered unbelievably fortunate, but the true anomaly wasn't the impacts themselves. It was something that came with them. Scientists discovered a green, liquid-like substance. It possessed properties similar to reactive compounds, but it was exponentially more dangerous. Governments worldwide immediately ordered the lockdown of these areas to control the situation. Later, Professor Rowan, a researcher from Canada, along with teams from various organizations, began to study it in earnest. They named the substance nebula fluid. As years passed, the findings began to become abnormal. Nebula fluid could move on its own, almost as if it were alive. And what was even more terrifying was that multiple scientists reported the exact same thing. They heard voices, not actual sounds, but something attempting to communicate directly within their minds. This phenomenon induced severe hallucinations and extreme psychological instability. Consequently, a large number of researchers decided to terminate their experiments, but not Professor Rowan. He continued his research, acting as though he knew something, until he began to exhibit abnormal symptoms. He suffered from severe headaches, experienced hallucinations, and claimed that he could control something impossible to control. Many tried to stop him, but he wouldn't. Then, in the year 2000, the unthinkable happened. Every sphere dummy on Earth vanished. Professor Rowan and the nebula fluid disappeared with them. No traces, no evidence. They just faded away. This event caused immense concern among all factions, as the Sphere faction served as the peacekeepers and mediators of the world. But now, they were entirely gone. There have been scattered reports from civilians claiming to have seen sphere-headed dummies appear for just a fleeting moment, but there is still no concrete evidence to confirm this. And this is all the information we currently have. But the question remains, did they truly disappear, or are they still out there somewhere? And how exactly did this happen?